Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good afternoon. The devotional today will be led by performing artist Carol Ann Jones of Alzheimer's Awareness.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be invited to give this afternoon's devotional on Alzheimer's Advocacy Day at the State House. My first personal experience with Alzheimer's disease occurred about 25 years ago. I went to visit a dear old neighbor from my childhood who was living in a dementia unit at a Vermont nursing home. She had Alzheimer's disease. When I went into the secure unit, many of the residents gathered around me. They touched me and asked me questions. My neighbor didn't know who I was. I tried telling her my memories out of our many wonderful experiences, but she smiled and said, "That's so nice, dear. I don't know you. You must be mistaken." She asked the other residents to stand back and let me be. My heart was racing. It was complete chaos. I talked with her and held her hand for a few minutes, but then excused myself and left the nursing home, heading out to my car. I climbed in, I started to cry, and I called my husband. I said, "I just can't stay. It's too scary in there." Fast forward to 14 years ago. I was in between milking shifts at our dairy farm, reading the St. Albans Messenger. There was a large employment ad looking for a recreation assistant at a St. Albans nursing home. Someone who loves music to share with our residents. As a singer-songwriter with time to myself every late morning, I thought this was a personal message, and I responded. I met with my now dear friend Cindy, and she explained she would like me to do one-on-one visits with the residents that can't or won't come out of their rooms, as well as lead group musical activities. I took the job, working 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I met incredible people of all ages, although most were elderly. I learned what their favorite songs were and would go home and chart them out and play them for them, and then they would often sing with me. I kept a journal during this time. I recorded each resident who passed away under my musical care, recording their story as I knew it and their favorite songs. When the journal was full, there were 182 entries. I created a one-woman show, The Power of Music, 12 Souls in Song, as a platform for music and memory, fundraising and awareness, and I performed it in 6 Vermont counties between 2017 and 2019. I shelved the show when the pandemic started, but I hope to revive it again soon. Now I'd like to share an inspiring story from my Power of Music show. Charlotte is soul number 12 in the show, and she would be glad that her story might inspire you. Charlotte lived at the Converse home. She was 94 when I met her and just passed last month at 97. She had Alzheimer's disease but maintained the ability to tell great stories. Although they were usually fictional, she thought they were real. She really did. She asked me to tell her about myself, and I told her about my childhood and married life, and she said she loved my story. She said, "It's homemade." She said, "You should write a book about your life, and you should call it Homemade. And you should tell everyone that Charlotte told you to tell it." I'm about 50,000 words into typing Homemade, and I owe credit to my dear friend, Charlotte. Charlotte loved to sing, and she had a pretty soprano voice. I would always call on her to sing the high parts during our weekly sing-alongs at the Converse home. She taught me a great old song by Rudy Valley from 1928 called Honey. When I researched Rudy Valley, which is common practice when I'm looking up these old songs, I learned that Rudy was born in 1901 in Island Pond, Vermont. That was fun information to bring back to Charlotte. He was the first pop star as we know it today, like the Justin Bieber or the Beyonce of 1928. I played for Charlotte as she was dying. It was a joy to see her perk up and still work to hit all those high notes. Even though her eyes were wandering, opening and closing, and her body was very still, by God, she hit that high note. I played Honey, In the Garden, You Are My Sunshine, and Somewhere Over the Rainbow for Charlotte. Her daughter sat with us and sang along. Charlotte lived every day to its fullest and really cared about everyone around her. She was always making sure everyone was comfortable and would offer up her chair to anyone who came in the room. She will be remembered with loving thoughts at every future sing-along, especially when that high note comes. And we now all try to hit the high notes in memory of dear Charlotte. So this one's for Charlotte and so many other beautiful angels. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I? Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you. I didn't cry. I wanted to. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, members, we have one House bill for introduction today. House Bill 503 is an act relating to delaying the requirements of the Advanced Clean Car Truck Rule, introduced by Representative Keyser of Rutland City and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 503, an act relating to delaying the requirements of the Advanced Clean Truck Rule.
Now, the bill's been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Transportation. We have one bill on the notice calendar requiring referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. Senate Bill 18 is an act relating to licensure of freestanding birth centers. Carrying an appropriation, the bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Members, we have received requests to read 4 House concurrent resolutions that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. The first is HCR 74, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 Boys and Girls Clubs of Vermont Youth of the Year honorees. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas since 1947, Youth of the Year has been the Boys and Girls Club's premier annual honorary recognition, celebrating the extraordinary achievements of the club's teens. And whereas the Boys and Girls Clubs equip their members with the skills and values needed to grow into responsible, successful adults and leaders within their communities. And whereas the Youth of the Year award winners exemplify the hard work, determination, and hope of the Boys and Girls Clubs movement. And whereas selection as a Youth of the Year award winner is the highest honor that the Boys and Girls Clubs can bestow on their members. And whereas the 2025 Vermont Youth of the Year honorees by their first names and respective local Boys and Girls Clubs are Jason Brattleboro, Kaylee Burlington, Megan Vergens, and Tyler Rutland. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 Boys and Girls Clubs of Vermont Youth of the Year honorees. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to each honoree recognized in this resolution.
Next is HCR 66, which is a House concurrent resolution celebrating the role of tourism in the Vermont economy and designating April 10th, 2025 as Tourism Economy Day at the State House. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas Vermont is a global destination for outdoor recreation, dining, lodging, art, and history, and this creates business opportunities, attracts new residents, and incentivizes Vermonters to stay. And whereas our state's tourism industry has a $4 billion economic impact and constitutes over 10% of Vermont's workforce. And whereas in 2023, 15.8 million people visited Vermont, contributing an estimated $282.3 million in state and local taxes. And whereas tourism and hospitality are among the largest industries in Vermont, constituting over 30,000 jobs. And whereas meaningful representation and inclusion ensure that Vermont is welcoming to all, enabling everyone to experience the joy of visiting the state regardless of background. And whereas industry leaders who center community values in their work embody the ideal of destination leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly celebrates the role of tourism in the Vermont economy and designates April 10th, 2025 as the Tourism Economy Day at the State House. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, Ski Vermont, and the Department of Tourism and Marketing.
Members, next is HCR 70, which is a House concurrent resolution designating April 10th, 2025 as Alzheimer's Awareness Day at the State House. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas, according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, Alzheimer's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that occurs when nerve cells in the brain die, and it can result in impaired memory, thinking, and behavior. And whereas most experts calculate that nearly 7 million Americans 65 years of age and older are living with this disease. And whereas in Vermont, 12,800 individuals 65 years of age and older are living with Alzheimer's. And in 2020, the most recent calculation of this statistic, 9.9% of the state's residents in this age cohort were its victims. And whereas in 2022, Alzheimer's was the cause of death for 329 Vermonters, making the disease the fourth leading cause of death in the state and representing a 145.5% increase during the years 2000 to 2022. And whereas the impact of Alzheimer's in Vermont is not limited to those who are living with the disease, as approximately 20,000 Vermonters are dedicating 29 million hours to individuals' Alzheimer's care, a commitment currently valued at $773 million, and 61.5% of the caregivers have chronic health conditions, 35.4% are suffering with depression, and 10.7% are in poor physical health. And whereas the projected Medicaid cost associated with Alzheimer's care in Vermont for 2025 is $158 million. And whereas today, April 10th, 2025, family members, caregivers, and medical professionals are gathered at the State House to inform the General Assembly of the financial, personal, and societal implications of Alzheimer's disease in Vermont. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly designates April 10th, 2025 as Alzheimer's Awareness Day at the State House. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Alzheimer's Association Vermont chapter.
And finally, HCR 73 is a House concurrent resolution designating April 10th, 2025 as Museums and Libraries Day at the State House. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas museums and libraries are the cornerstone of our democracy, serve as public forums to debate big ideas, and are places to learn of past societies and gain guidance for shaping the future. And whereas the state of Vermont is home to more museums per capita than any other state in the nation, with 48 museums per 100,000 residents, and there are nearly 300 statewide. And whereas most Vermont museums are small local historical organizations and their predominantly volunteer staff serve in these roles because they love their communities and the associated heritage these special institutions are preserving in the form of archives, objects, and stories for future generations. And whereas similarly, the state of Vermont hosts more libraries per capita than any other state, totaling 185 public libraries or 28 per 100,000 residents. And whereas the modern library is not really merely a convenient depository of circulating books and a wonderful place to read, but equally important, it serves as the heart of our communities by lending tools, hosting musical performances and lectures, exhibiting films, acting as an emergency response hub, an information technology access center, and more broadly, as a community facility where curiosity can be satisfied and our common humanities shared among each other. And whereas museums and libraries often combine their facilities and services, offering the best of both educational milieu. And whereas today, April 10, 2025, staff and volunteers from the Vermont Historical Society, which since 1838 has served as one of the premier organizations in Vermont, combining both museum and library facilities and services, are visiting the State House to remind the General Assembly of the great community worth of both their institution and of museums and libraries across the Green Mountain State. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly designates April 10th, 2025 as Museums and Libraries Day at the State House. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Vermont Historical Society.
Are there any announcements? Member from Brattleboro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You heard the resolution read for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Vermont. We are fortunate to have 4 of these important clubs throughout Vermont, providing important learning, safety, and fun for 1,800 young people, starting when they're 5 years old and ending when they get their first professional job. If you talk with someone who has attended a club, they'll likely tell you that it changed the trajectory of their life. Today, I'm happy to welcome 4 club members and their supporters to the People's House. Jason is here from Brattleboro, Tyler from Richmond, Megan from Virgins, and Collie from Burlington. And Collie was just named Vermont Youth of the Year at a luncheon over in the pavilion. So let's give them all a warm welcome and wish them well in their future. Thank you.
For the members of the guests from Brattleboro, please stand and be recognized. Are there any further announcements? Member from, I'm going to get this, Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We heard the resolution a few minutes ago, setting aside today as Alzheimer's Day, a day where we remember Alzheimer's disease and those who suffer with its various forms and honor those who work to help these patients. Carol Ann Jones is my constituent and my longtime friend. She lives in Georgia, Vermont, and I hope that you enjoyed her singing earlier today. Carol Ann is dedicated to building her understanding of dementia and her ability to support those who are living with it. She's a certified music and memory program instructor. She helps set up a program in libraries and nursing homes in the state. Music helps dementia patients in many ways, not only obviously mood lifting, but it opens up doorways to memories and words and creates a happy spirit, encouraging movement. It leads to better appetite for these patients and a positive attitude, which makes for a cooperative spirit with better hygiene and reliable routine. Carol Ann is also a certified dementia care trainer with the Best Friends approach to dementia care and end-of-life doula. She worked with the Converse home, that's the home in Burlington. For many years, her office was in the memory care unit, and she was with the Alzheimer's community of people for more than 40 hours each week. So I hope that you can join me, Madam Speaker, and Representative Bartley, who is my district mate. Carol Ann has visited the State House before, and we are honored again to have her here. So please help me welcome her.
Will the guest of the member from Georgia please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Wolcott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is Alzheimer's Awareness Day. There are about 13,000 Vermonters are currently living with Alzheimer's disease, and more than 20,000 family members and friends across our state are providing unpaid care. These are our neighbors, our coworkers, and our loved ones. There is a growing public health challenge that affects every Vermont community. Today, we are joined at the State House by some of the very Vermonters who are living with this disease, who are walking alongside someone who is. These are brave individuals who come forward to share their stories, not just their struggles, but also their strength and resilience. Their deep commitment to dignity and compassion, their voices remind us of why our work matters. They are also joined by advocates and staff of the Vermont chapter of Alzheimer's Association, along with many other organizations from across our state that provides vital services, resources, and supports for Vermonters living with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. The present here today is a testament to the network of care that exists in our state and the gaps that we need to fill. These caregivers, both professional and unpaid, show up every single day with care and dedication. Their challenges they face are immense, emotional, physical, and financial. Their labor, often invisible and undervalued, is truly heroic. Let us take this opportunity to recognize the importance of continued investment in research, public health infrastructure, and home and community-based services. We must ensure that Vermonters living with Alzheimer's have access to the care they need, whether that's memory screenings at senior centers, adult day programs, in-home care, or respite for family caregivers. So today, I invite members of this body to join me in thanking Vermonters who are here with us. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your courage and advocacy. And thank you for reminding us what it means to show up for one another, not just today, but every day. Together, let us recommit ourselves to building a Vermont that truly supports its aging population and honors the dignity of all people, regardless of the challenges they may face. Please join me in welcoming them to the People's House. They are seated both in the gallery and in the balcony.
Will the guest of the member from Wolcott please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Burlington?
As we learned, today is Vermont Tourism Economy Day. We have members of the tourism economy from hospitality, skiing, specialty foods, from many organizations that help support our tourism economy. I just want to underscore how important tourism is to our state, and every single one of us, every one of our towns, our areas are touched by this important role. So please welcome the folks, and let's celebrate tourism today.
Will the members of the guests from Burlington please rise and be recognized? Member from Shaftesbury.
Madam Speaker, I have special guests in the chamber today. It's unusual for me to have special guests. It's been several biennia. So please indulge me for a minute. My son Nathaniel is here with his girlfriend, Lucia. Nathaniel was a page when he was an 8th grader. And I remember as a parent being a little worried that he would have trouble keeping up with his studies. The Sergeant at Arms assured us, his parents, that the doorkeepers would keep an eye on that, make sure that they had their assignments every week, and that furthermore, one of the doorkeepers was a retired chemistry teacher. So something must have rubbed off because Nathaniel eventually did well in chemistry in high school, well enough and enjoyed it enough that he took a second class in chemistry. He had that opportunity in high school, and then went on to study chemistry as an undergraduate and then eventually get a graduate degree in chemistry as well. I'm telling this story in part because I'm proud of him, of course, and happy to have him here, but also he spent 2 years as an undergraduate, 2 summers, and then the years surrounding them doing research at college on Alzheimer's, and was working towards trying to identify cures to Alzheimer's. We need to bear in mind, especially in these times, that the work that's done on our college campuses, both undergraduate and graduate, is fundamental to finding cures to diseases like Alzheimer's. In any case, please help me welcome them to the chamber. They're upstairs in the gallery.
Will the members of the guests from Shaftesbury please rise and be recognized? Member from Manchester.
Madam Speaker, today I'm hosting Quentin Elms, who's a junior at Burton Academy. He's a student in BBA's Success Program. He loves history and politics, and he is interning for me through the summer. So please help me in welcoming him here to the People's House.
Will the member from Manchester please, sorry about that. Will the guest of the member from Manchester please rise and be recognized? Member from Bristol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also have a very special guest here today, someone I've known all her life. My daughter, Hannah Allen, is up in the balcony. She started her life as someone who cares about community greatly and about the world around us. She has put her body on the line in her community in Vermont and also in DC. And there's something about the apple in the tree here, although she's very much her own person. One of her first photos was of her on the front page on my lap on the front page of the Hardwick Gazette, because they were doing a story about my war tax resistance. So again, the apple in the tree, she had a day off and she thought she'd come to the legislature to hear about education. So please welcome with all your hearts my daughter, Hannah.
Will the guest of Bristol please rise and be recognized? Member from Burlington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So on Mondays, I have the great honor and privilege of teaching a class at UVM on nonprofits and social change. And I'm excited today to have a student of mine here. Caden Pinney is a second-year studio art major with a minor in critical race and ethnic studies. As part of the class, each student does an internship. Caden is interning for the Alzheimer's Association. Caden co-curated the show, currently hanging in the cafeteria. They applied their learning as an art major at UVM to help with all aspects of the show, from selecting the art to interviewing the artists and creating their biographies to hanging the show. Caden also created a collage consisting of more than 30 individual pieces that were submitted from residential care facilities. Caden is seated in the balcony. Caden is from California, and Caden's mom, Grandma Sue, and Grandpa Bob are proudly watching from Southern California. I hope the body will give Caden and their family a warm welcome and check out the amazing art show later.
Will the guests of the member from Burlington please rise and be recognized? Member from Bennington.
Madam Speaker, I have a guest today. My guest is a member of the Bennington Select Board, a small business owner, the co-founder of the Bennington Food Truck Festival, one of the most popular festivals in Southern Vermont, and a very active member of the Bennington community. In fact, she does so much that I wrote that down and read it despite the fact that she's my wife. From 4 to 6, she'll also be giving samples of our maple almonds and cider caramels in the cafeteria, and she is seated in the balcony, my wife, Sarah.
Will the guest of the member from Bennington please rise and be recognized? Member from Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to welcome the most amazing and inspiring group of fertility patients, providers, advocates, and representatives from the nonprofit organization All Paths Family Building to the House today. They're here for Vermont's first ever Fertility Advocacy Day, raising awareness about improving access to fertility healthcare. Infertility and other family building challenges affect an estimated 1 in 6 people. Yet, Vermont remains the only state in the Northeast without a fertility insurance law. That's something we're working to change. These group of individuals here advocating today and outside of the building are why I come and do what I do every single day. So please join me in welcoming these dedicated, amazing advocates.
Will the guest of the member from Fairfax please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, we've heard a lot of people welcomed. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge those who can't be here right now. Those are our loved ones and neighbors who've passed away from Alzheimer's, dementia, and other neurocognitive disorders. Those who are currently suffering and can't be here. Those who are with them, taking care of them right now. And those who are being evicted from the motels. Currently, there are people being evicted from our emergency assistance program with Alzheimer's and dementia, with nowhere to go. So I'd just like to take a moment to keep them all in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Are there any further announcements? Member from Brattleboro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have another group to welcome today. You just heard earlier the reading of the resolution celebrating museums and libraries and honoring the Vermont Historical Society. This is a significant moment to be honoring our cultural institutions, which are currently undergoing an unprecedented attack through cuts to funding, elimination of jobs, disparaging rhetoric, and outright censorship. Libraries and museums enrich and inspire our lives. We learn history, improve literacy, and benefit from exposure to a variety of cultures and practices. The Vermont Historical Society exemplifies the close connection between libraries and museums. I'm honored to serve as a board member, along with the member from Shelburne, Representative Lally. Representatives of the Society are here with us today. They include Steve Perkins, Executive Director, Eileen Corcoran, Director of Service and Outreach, Amanda Gustin, Director of Collections and Access, Emily Lev, Director of Stewardship and Public Relations, and Hannah Kirkpatrick, Program Coordinator. Also in attendance, we have our State Librarian, Catherine Del Neo, and Jeanette Schaefer, Assistant State Librarian. Please give them a warm welcome on behalf of myself and the representative from Shelburne.
Will the guests of the member from Brattleboro and Shelburne please rise and be recognized? Are there any other announcements? Member from Springfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too have a guest in attendance today that came up from Springfield. It's a former high school classmate, former college mate at Vermont Tech. He's up here for the first time visiting the State House, had lunch, and is interested in watching a little bit of the session today. So I'm hoping that we can give him a warm welcome.
Will the guest of the member from Springfield please rise and be recognized? Member from Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Chartered in 1865 as the National Bank of Derby Line, my hometown bank. And in 1975, purchasing the Island Pond National Bank, it became the Community National Bank. Today, I have two members of my community here, and I'd like them to be recognized from Community National Bank, Chris Caldwell and Louise Bombecchio. Thank you.
Will the guest of the member from Derby please rise and be recognized? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Following up on the representative from Brattleboro's comments about the importance of libraries and museums, we are very fortunate in Waterbury to have a wonderful co-location of our library and our history center in the same complex. As we know, libraries are much more than books and books in all forms. They're community gathering spaces. They provide art classes, opportunities for story hours for children, chair yoga, resources for our community in general. And they definitely serve as community gathering place. And we are so lucky to have them in our communities across the state. So on behalf of my district mate, would you please welcome our wonderful librarian from Waterbury, Rachel Muse, and she's sitting in the gallery.
Will the guests of the members from Waterbury please rise and be recognized? Member from Berry City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If you'll excuse the double dipping, we already welcomed Amanda Gustin to the chamber, but I would be remiss if I did not recognize one of my very best friends, one-time roommate and Berry City Councilor, Amanda Gustin.
Will the guest of the member from Berry City please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Woodstock.
At great risk of drawing this out, Madam Speaker, I did discover a couple of bankers wandering the halls, and I was able to recognize them. Patty Monahan from Muskoma Bank, who is a fellow board member of the Good Neighbor Health Clinic, and also Susie Chamberlain, a resident of South Woodstock, Vermont. So I just want to welcome them to the Chamber's house, People's House.
Will the guest of the member from Woodstock please rise and be recognized? Member from Bridport.
Madam Speaker, I too have a special guest in the audience. This is a friend and a constituent. She serves in her local select board, has a long history of she was a middle school health teacher. So she is just amazing at everything she does, super funny, wonderful person. And I hope you will all join me in welcoming her to the State House today.
Will the guest of the member from Bridport please rise and be recognized? Are there any other announcements? Member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If you haven't guessed yet, I think you probably know today is Bankers Day under the Golden Dome. So many of you may have seen some of your local bankers here today. And so all the other bankers that haven't been recognized yet, I'd ask us to welcome them to the chamber. Thank you.
Will the guest of the member from Coventry please rise and be recognized? Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. On our action calendar today is Senate Bill 3, which is an act relating to the transfer of property to a trust. The bill was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence. The member from Brattleboro, Rep. Goodnow, will report for the committee. Affecting the revenue of the state, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, which also recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence. The member from Fairhaven, Rep. Canfield, will recommend for that committee. Now the question is, shall the bill be... Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S3, an act relating to transfer of property to a trust.
Reporting from the Committee on Judiciary, the member from Brattleboro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. S3 is a bill that sits at the intersection of trust and property law. For the body to fully appreciate what S3 aims to achieve, I'll briefly explain those two areas of law as they relate to S3. And if you listen carefully, Madam Speaker, you may be able to get 1 or 2 questions right on the bar exam. Trust 101. There are 3 major players when you establish a trust: the settlor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. The settlor is who establishes the trust and transfers assets into the trust. The trustee is who manages the trust, takes legal ownership of the trust assets when they are transferred into it. And the beneficiary is who, as you would imagine, benefits from the trust. The thing to remember for S3 is that the trustee is who legally owns property when it is in the trust. Moving to property law, when purchasing real estate in Vermont, there are different ways in which you can hold title to that property. If you want to own property together with another person, there are essentially 3 main types of ownership that you can use: tenants in common, joint tenants, and tenants by the entirety. Each of these forms of ownership has its own advantages and disadvantages. S3 involves the 3rd type of ownership, tenants by the entirety. In Vermont, as in many other states, when spouses own property together, it is often owned in the legal status called tenants by the entirety. This type of ownership is exclusively available to married couples. One of the primary benefits of owning property in this way is called creditor protection. This means that property cannot be attached by a creditor of one of the spouses in order to pay the debts or obligations of that spouse. If it is a joint debt owed by both spouses, then the property could be attached to pay the debt. But that cannot be done if it is only one spouse who owes the debt. This is because both spouses own the entirety of the property, so both spouses need to agree to attach the property to the debt. Okay, so when you bring these 2 areas together, you can start to see the issue that S3 aims to address, or at least I hope you can see what it's trying to do. Currently in Vermont, the creditor protection benefit afforded to couples who own property as tenants by the entirety is lost when spouses transfer their property into a trust. This is because technically, when a property is transferred into a trust, it is legally owned by the trustee, which means the spouses no longer own it as tenants by the entirety, and it is therefore no longer protected from one spouse's debts. Spouses frequently want to use a trust when they write their wills and plan their estates because property held in trust can be transferred to spouses' beneficiaries, such as their children, without having to go through the expensive and time-consuming probate court process. S3 addresses this situation by allowing spouses to keep the creditor protection benefit that they already have under current law when they transfer their property that they own as tenants by the entirety into a trust. The S3 is not in today's calendar, but you can find it online. The Vermont Trust Code already has a provision under 14A VSA Section 505 that addresses creditor claims against the settlor of the trust. And if you remember from my earlier lesson, the settlor is the person or persons who place the property into a trust. S3 adds a new subsection, subsection C, to Section 505 to expressly state that property owned by spouses as tenants by the entirety retains the creditor protection benefit when it is transferred into a trust. Subdivisions C1A through E set out the criteria that must be met in order for the property to retain the creditor protection. This criteria includes that spouses must be married to each other, the property must be held in trust. If it is a joint trust, it must comply with specific rules around revoking that trust. The property must be in the spouse's property. And finally, both spouses must be current beneficiaries of the trust. Subdivision C2 permits the spouses to opt out of the creditor protection rule if they should choose, as long as they state it in writing that they do not want it to apply. Subdivision C2 also provides that creditor protection feature no longer applies after the dissolution of the spouse's marriage. So if you get divorced, you're not going to have this protection any longer. Subdivision C3 concerns the applicability of the new law. It provides that when spouses transfer joint tenancy property to a trust, then the property retains the creditor protection benefit regardless of whether the transfer happened before, on, or after the effective date of this act. Section 2 of S3 provides that the act takes effect on passage. Madam Speaker, we heard from the following witnesses: the president of the Vermont Bankers Association, Legislative Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, the chair of the Vermont Bar Association Probate Trust Law Section. All of these witnesses were in favor of S3. The committee vote was 9-0-2, and I ask for your support.
And now the member from Fairhaven.
Madam Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means did consider Senate Bill 3, an act relating to the transfer of property to a trust. S3 came to Ways and Means because it deals with trusts. At witness list, we heard from a lawyer from Legislative Counsel and the reporter of the bill. After a walkthrough of the bill and an explanation of the changes in the bill, your Committee on Ways and Means agreed on a vote of 10-0-1 that this bill ought to pass.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? The member from South Burlington requests that when the vote is taken, it be taken by rolls. The member is sustained. The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arsenault of Williston.
2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? I would like to remind members that we are in the middle of a roll call vote. Members and guests are prohibited from using computers, phones, or any type of an electronic device. Please refrain from the passing of notes and conversation during a roll call. When the clerk calls your name, please answer in a loud and clear voice so the clerk can accurately record your votes. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Will the clerk please continue to call the roll?
Austin of Colchester. Bailey of Hyde Park. Bartholomew of Heartland. Bartley of Fairfax. Rebecca of Winooski. Byron of Virgins. Bishop of Colchester. Black of Essex. Bloomley of Burlington. Boslin of Westminster. Bosch of Clarendon. Booton of Berry City. Boynan of Cambridge. Brady of Williston. Brannigan of Georgia. Brown of Richmond. Burdett of West Rutland. Burke of Brattleboro. Burkhart of South Burlington. Burrows of West Windsor. Bird of Cabot. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Canfield of Fairhaven. Karras Duncan of Whitingham. Casey of Montpelier. Casey Hubbardton. Chapin of East Montpelier. Charlton Chester. Christie of Hartford. Chena of Burlington. Coffin of Cavendish. Cole of Hartford. Conlon of Cornwall. Cooper of Pownell. Corcoran of Bennington. Cordes of Bristol. Critchlow of Colchester. DeMar of Venusburg. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dodge of Essex. Dolan of Essex Junction. Dolgan of St. Johnsbury. Donahue of Northfield. Duke of Burlington. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Eastis of Guilford. Emmons of Springfield. Feltus of Linden. Galfetti of Berrytown. Garifano of Essex. Goldman of Rockingham. Goodnow of Brattleboro. Ghostland of Northfield. Granning of Jericho. Greer of Bennington. Gregoire of Fairfield. Hengo of Berkshire. Harpo of Glover. Harrison of Chittenden. Harvey of Castleton. Hedrick of Burlington. Higley of Lowell. Holcomb of Norwich. Hooper of Randolph. Hooper of Burlington. Houghton of Essex Junction. Howard of Rutland City. Holland of Rutland Town. Hunter of Manchester. James of Manchester. Kosenska Burke. Keyser of Rutland City. Kimball of Woodstock. Klepner of Burlington. Kornheiser of Brattleboro. Krasnow, South Burlington. Labor of Morgan. Lally of Shelburne. Lalone of South Burlington. Lamont of Morristown. LaRush of Franklin. Lipsky of Stowe. Logan of Burlington. Long of Newfane. Luno of St. Albans City. McGuire of Rutland City. Malay of Pittsford. Marcotte of Coventry. Maslin of Thetford. McCann of Montpelier. McCoy of Pulteney. McFawn of Berrytown. McGill of Bridport. McCliss of Milton. Mahali of Callis. Minier of South Burlington. Morganella Milton. Morgan Emma Milton. Morse of Springfield. Morse of Bennington. Mora of Weston. Rowicki of Putney. Nelson of Derby. Nielsen of Brandon. Niagara of Bennington. North of Ferrisburg. Noyes of Wolcott. Nugent of South Burlington. O'Brien of Tunbridge. Odie Burlington. Oliver Sheldon. Olson of Starksboro. Page of Newport City. Parsons of Newberry.
Pezzo of Colchester. Pentonalda Dorset. Pouch of Heinsberg. Powers of Waterford. Priestley of Bradford. Pritchard of Paulette. Quimby of Linden. Rachelson of Burlington. Sakowitz of Randolph. Shire of Middlebury. Sheldon of Middlebury. Sibilia of Dover. Southworth of Walden. Squirrel of Underhill. Steady Milton. Stevens of Waterbury. Stone of Burlington. Superdon of Barnard. Sweeney of Shelburne. Taglavia of Corinth. Taylor of Milton. Tomlinson of Winooski. Toof of St. Albans Town. Torrey Moortown. Walker of Swanton. Wazzazak of Berry City. Waters Evans of Charlotte. Wells of Brownington. White of Waitsfield. White of Bethel. Winter of Ludlow. Wood of Waterbury. Yakavoni of Morristown. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Christie of Hartford. Cooper of Pownell. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Holcomb of Norwich. McGuire of Rutland City. McCoy of Pulteney.
Members, please listen to the results of your votes. Those voting yes, 143. Those voting no, 1. The ayes have it. Members, and third reading is ordered. At this time, may I see all House leadership at the podium, please? The House will stand in recess. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Members, after conferring with all House leadership, we're going to take a break and recess until the fall of the gavel at 2:45 p.m. The House will stand in recess until 2:45.